Great. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another AMA session for the Decentraland community. I'm Fractilians, and I'm from the Decentraland DAO Facilitation Squad. While everyone joins, I'm going to share just a couple links and info with you guys. If you have any questions throughout the session, I'm going to post here in the chat the link to the Slido. Feel free to add your comment or your questions there throughout the session. Also, if you have not gotten a chance to watch any of the past AMAs, we upload them to the Decentraland DAO YouTube channel. They're usually posted within a day or two. Be sure to check that out, and here's the link to the playlist for that in case you want to catch up. Also, we're going to be having a bit of a break from AMAs after this, about 4 weeks like last time, and we'll keep you posted on the exact dates on when the next round starts up. And any updates will also be posted on the Notion doc for the AMAs, and here is the link for that as well. The goals of these AMAs, if you're new here, is to enable effective communication and help build connections between the foundation, grantees, and the larger Decentraland community. If you ever face any challenges or require any further information, please feel free to always contact me or any of the other members of the facilitation squad for the Decentraland DAO. So with that, I will pass it on to Nico, who is the SDK and Editor Product Manager for the Decentraland Foundation. Thanks so much, Nico, for being here, and I'll pass it on.
Sure. Thanks, Fractilian. So yeah, I'm going to share my screen, and today we actually have a bunch of announcements to make. So I'm going to go through those really quick, and then we'll jump into our QA session. So let me share the slideshow. I suppose you're seeing this. Okay, so the big first announcement is that SDK 7 is no longer in beta. So we've been working towards this for a while now, and now SDK 7 is fully supported and should be the recommended tool for everyone. I realize that, especially to those of you who've been working with Decentraland for a while, this is probably going to take some learning and some getting familiar with some new syntax. But we'll do all we can to try to, make this learning process easy and smooth. So yeah, like related to that, I'm going to share a bunch of more things right now. But just something that has changed. So this is a list of minor changes that have happened on the SDK since the last one of these updates that we did. And as you can see, it's a long list. I'm not going to go through everything in detail. But if any of this arises in the questions, we can come back to this. But basically, there's been a couple of, minor features added here and there, and a couple of minor breaking changes as well. But mostly they have to do with how clicks occur. So if you had a scene that was being built with SDK 7 in the earlier stages while it was in alpha or beta, you may need to make a little bit of adjustments for it to run properly. But basically, if you have a 3D model that uses, that doesn't have embedded underscore collider geometry, now you have to explicitly tell it to use the visible geometry as a clickable geometry. This is because we added this new feature to be able to select what geometry of the model to use as a collider. And this gives a lot of great freedoms, but also as an optimization, we've made the defaults to be the invisible geometry. So you might have to explicitly set that for that to work again. And there's a couple of other minor things that I don't want to go into deep detail, but if anyone brings up any specific issues, we can come back to this. So another thing I wanted to share is the new examples page. So this is not entirely new, but we've been adding some more functionality to it to make it plenty more usable. So if I go to the link now, you'll see that there's filters for selecting if I want to see only SDK 7 examples or only SDK 6 examples. I can select different difficulty levels. If I'm just beginning, I can make sure that I only see the beginner level ones, or I can see all of them, or even see like different scene types. So the idea is that the good old awesome repository is, for now, we're not adding SDK 7 examples to that repository, simply because it's just a lot more maintenance work to keep up the content in both those places. For now, we're adding the examples here in this repository instead for now. We are evaluating if we want to keep updating the awesome repository as well or not. But yeah, we also have plans for adding several new ones related to the SDK 7. In fact, I know that our internal content team has been building some pretty cool things, and like they're really worth sharing as examples. They will be coming really soon. So that's one thing. Then, sorry, jumping back here. What else? SDK 6 is going into a sunset stage. So this week we published a document on the forum that, in case you didn't see it, basically details our rationale for why we think that it makes the most sense to start thinking about, in the future, no longer supporting SDK 6. So the idea is that we want to make this transition, as, untraumatic as possible. So we're not cutting out SDK 6 right away. The idea is to provide support for it till the end of the year. So it's a bit above 6 months from now. But in the meantime, we expect everyone to start, migrating to SDK 7 as much as possible and start to, building their new scenes using SDK 7 rather than SDK 6. So in the meantime, SDK 6 scenes, if they run into issues, they will be fixed, but only with regards to fixing issues. We are no longer adding any new features to SDK 6. Instead, all of the effort for advancing the platform is going to SDK 7, simply because that's what makes the most sense. We have a pretty small team, and we have to focus on one thing. Otherwise, it would just spread too thin. So there's this post in the forum. If you want to respond anything to that, you're very much welcome to responding. We're also interested in any ideas or suggestions that might help make this transition easier and smoother for content creators. If there's anything from the DAO or from the the community at large that could help drive this transition to be less painful, that would really also be very appreciated. And of course, this very same forum is a great place. So if you have any related questions or comments, this is a great place to discuss that. So coming back to my presentation, what else? So there's 2 game jams that will be starting, one right away on Monday and the other one right after that one. So the first game jam is more in the tradition of the game jams we've done in the past. So this is going to be a remote event that's going to last this time 3 weeks. And it's a competition. There will be mana prizes. There's a theme. And yeah, more details about this will be revealed on the blog post on Monday. But for now, I can tell you that this will be built using SDK 7. So the idea is to take this as an opportunity to give people an excuse to learn SDK 7 and the new syntax. So I recommend you start brushing up on that. And 2, I can mention that we want to encourage the use of worlds, which I know there's an ongoing discussion about rebranding that. I don't want to get into that. Whatever the branded name ends up being, if it's either worlds or dream spaces, the idea is that the submitted scenes for this are built for large plots of lands, which opens up for a bunch of really interesting possibilities. And now the second event is going to take place right after that first one, right when our 3-week game jam ends. That's time for this other hackathon. So this is going to be a different event. It's going to be just a 2-day thing, and it's going to be in presence. It's going to be in Valencia, in Spain. And it's going to be linked to the NFT Show Europe event. So this is going to be less of a competition. It's going to be more of a collaborative thing, but it's going to be a great opportunity to meet up and to learn by building stuff as a group. And this is going to be also organized with the help of Metaverse architects, who have also done some really successful and cool events in other places as well. So another related thing has to do with educational events as part of the planning for this game jam, and also as a more long-term initiative related to learning SDK 7. I'm going to be hosting a learning session. This is going to be tomorrow at 6 p.m. UTC. The idea is to, in the future, probably do more of these, but this one is going to be right before the game jam, so it's going to be more oriented towards getting people set up and ready for building stuff for the game jam. So this session, I'm going to go over some of the basics of SDK 7 and also going to go over some of the basics of the editor, which is the other big announcement that we have for today, which is that the editor is now making pretty interesting progress. And so we're right in the middle of a release right now. So I was planning on making like a full live demo of this, but since we're in the middle of the release, I'm going to make a more limited demo that will only like show some of the stuff. The idea is that we're like right in the last stages and the last steps of making this like fully featured, but for now I'm going to show just this part. This is yet unreleased, but will be released very, very soon, probably today, probably tomorrow. As you know, if you're familiar with the editor UI, you'll notice that there's a new button right here. And with this, you can open the inspector. The inspector is the brand new drag and drop UI, where you have something that is pretty similar to what you could do with a good old web builder, but way more powerful. So with this, yeah, you can drag and drop items in a visual way. So if you're positioning things, yeah, there's no longer all of this trial and error of adjusting things minimally one at a time. You also have access to all of the good old assets that we had way back with the builder. So there's, you know, all of these really cool assets that were built and optimized, specifically thinking about Decentraland. So yeah, like I can easily grab any of these things and drag it right into the scene. And just like that, I have a new art asset in my scene. So yeah, I can easily drag stuff right in and then move and adjust it as however I want. I can also drag files from my local machine. So yeah, I can stick this plus sign and just drag something that I might have in my machine, and without having to deal with, you know, positioning things in the right folder or whatever, I have one more asset I can just drag into the scene with the same ease. One thing that you couldn't do with the builder is, like, beyond, you know, moving things visually, you also have the UI representation for all of the components in each one of these entities. So yeah, I can modify this stuff with the transform. If I want to, you know, I can rotate this to try to get it exactly right. There's also like a smooth rotation and a fixed increments rotation, but I can also, you know, come here and set the rotation to, you know, 90 degrees and not worry about zooming in and getting it just right. And yeah, there's those kinds of nice things. For now, the UI only offers, you know, some of the more basic components, but the idea is to expand this in the future to also include any component you want, including custom components. And with that, like, we really open up what can be done with this. And of course, the other big advantage next to the builder is that this is running in, you know, a scene that is written with code with SDK, and I can, you know, write code that calls out the stuff that I'm adding. So like, yeah, in the future, we also want to have some stuff that is similar to the good old smart items that we had in the builder, but as a much more powerful alternative that is already available. You can, you know, just use code to call the stuff here. So for example, I can rename this to, let's just get rid of the space just in case. And from my code, I can, yeah, go something like this. I can write train equals to engine dot get entity by name, and I just pass the name train machine just as it's written here. And with that, I have a reference to my entity. As a good practice, I can do if train, just in case this returns null. And yeah, with this, I can just go, you know, treat this as a regular entity and get my transform from train, or modify it, or add more components as, and do whatever I want with that. So yeah, this makes, you know, part of the more tedious parts of using the SDK a lot smoother. And, you know, probably the first steps as a newbie with the SDK can now be done, you know, in a completely friendly visual way. And, you know, only once you have those basics in, you need to actually look at the code that creates that. So that's all of the stuff I was planning to present today. But now it's time for the AMA part of this TAMA. So let's dive into all of your questions and let's try answering. So first question, when will there be more SDK from start to finish project-based tutorials for total beginners? So as I was mentioning, there's going to be this learning session tomorrow. That's going to be aimed towards total beginners, and this will be recorded, it will be shared. But yeah, I believe that it would be also good to make some, shorter, more concise videos. And we're asking also for help from the verified partners in the DAO to also help provide tutorials of their own. Besides this, we actually have a tutorial that is already recorded and almost out. This was done by Will Kane from the content team. This is not a beginner tutorial, but a really interesting one about how to use AI NPCs. There's going to be a blog post about this tomorrow. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but that's going to be really interesting. But yeah, that being said, we also need to work on beginner tutorials. This live session I'm going to do tomorrow is going to be oriented towards that, but we also want to have short, to the point little videos that might be more easily digestible for that purpose. So next question. Once SDK 6 is in sunset, will all scenes that have been built using SDK 6 work or be broken? So that point is actually addressed in the forum post that I mentioned before. Where is this? Here. So the idea is that no. The idea is that once we reach this sunset landmark in time, the foundation team will stop being responsible for fixing bugs. However, that doesn't mean that things will just break. Things will keep working until something breaks those, but that could be indefinite. And also, as all of this is open source, it is absolutely possible and welcome for external contributors, people from outside the foundation, to fix bugs with SDK 6 as well. That's also still going to be very much a possibility. But the idea is that, and by the way, we also make a distinction here on this proposal, which has to do with thinking about two different kinds of support. One is support for the content creation tools, and the other is support for the rendering. This is only about support for the content creation tools. Now, if the Explorer engine is able to keep rendering these scenes, that's really up to a different team and to a different set of considerations that we didn't want to step over with this document. This is about considerations that are relevant to the SDK team and how we respond to fixing issues with the whole process of creating scenes and with the content that's created with it. Next question. In previous AMAs, it was mentioned SDK 6 would be supported indefinitely. Does this sunset mean SDK 6 scenes will break after the end of the year? So I think that was kind of responded by that. To be honest, I don't recall saying that SDK 6 would be supported indefinitely. In fact, we've made that explicit also in the documentation in the support policy. So if we go to this is here, yeah. No, sorry, wrong place. Let's rather look for it. So like what we're discussing here is that we can think about versioning families and versioning numbers. So the family is the big number, the SDK 6 or SDK 7, and then within that we have internal versions and subversions of that. So we can think about SDK 6 or we can think about SDK 7.2.1. The idea is that whenever we make a minor release, so we go from SDK 7.2 to SDK 7.3, we expect to, since the migration from 7.2 to 7.3 should, by definition, be effortless and without any pain. We expect content creators to migrate their content to SDK 7.3. That is because, it's a lot harder to maintain and to fix bugs in a whole history of versions. And of course, content that was built with SDK 7.2 should still work, but should run into any issues. Rather than needing the foundation team to make fixes, the first action of a content creator would be, let's update to the latest version and make sure that whatever bug is being experienced hasn't already been fixed. And if that isn't the case, then we should look into fixing that. Now, when it comes to big family migrations, going from SDK 6 to SDK 7, we can't expect people to, migrate their content overnight because, of course, it involves, a significant effort to change the content. And so there is that we think about providing a grace period to make that transition, a lot less painful and give people time to gradually get used to the new syntax and also, migrate any existing projects. I realize that there's a lot of projects out there that are pretty big and that involve a lot of work, and it's not something that you can completely change from one day to the next. So thinking about that is that we are, providing this window of time to allow people to migrate the content. But I mean, definitely it's not feasible to provide support to any version indefinitely in the future. Because that just keeps adding more and more weight on our backs and prevents us from moving faster as well. So next question. Where will the educational live session happen? So we will be sharing a link on Twitter very soon. We're actually just discussing that minutes ago. So that will be shared today. But this will happen on I'm sure your Google Meets session. And the link will be shared. Someone is asking, hello, Nico, may you share your email? Sorry, I don't share my email openly to everyone, but if you have any specific inquiry, I'm happy to help out. Is that for anything specific we can discuss here, or who, by the way, who was it that asked that, if I may ask? I can share it via a private message, but I'd rather not do it right here in the session. Is there anything else that we want to discuss? You can also feel free to take the mic and voice any questions directly here.
I was just going to say that. Well, if not, we can start wrapping it up a little early. That's cool with everyone. So I guess last call, if anyone else has any questions, you're free to unmic yourself and ask away. If not, we'll start wrapping this session up. I guess that's a go. Cool. Well, thank you, Nico, for the updates and the presentation. Excited for the upcoming game jam and the AI innovation hackathon. I wish I could be there in Valencia. Also looking forward to you said the new inspector feature is about to launch, right? Is that what's...
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
cool.
We're this close.
Cool.
I was hoping to do a full demo today, but we're with the last things.
Nice. Okay, cool. I'll definitely be on the lookout for that and play. It looks super fun and powerful. And wanted to thank everybody in the community for being here today and for your questions as well. And hope everyone can join us tomorrow. I'm definitely going to be there for the educational live session, and I will be looking for that link. I'll share that on the Decentraland DAO Discord as well for everyone. And be on the lookout for the next round of AMAs, which will be starting up in about 4 weeks, and updates will be shared as well on the Decentraland Foundation and Decentraland DAO Discord. So with that, thanks everyone for being here, and see you guys all next time. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.